Welcome to Discovering the Law. My name is Lucy Rivera. Today's episode will be the very important Massachusetts Client Security Board of the Supreme Judicial Court. And today we have two very important guests with us to show us and tell us about this important service. Attorney Karen O'Toole. She is the General Counsel of the Client Security Board, and Attorney Ethan Jeffrey, who is the Chairman of the board. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome to Discovering the Law.
Thank you.
And please tell us, what is the Client Security Board?
The Client Security Board was established by the Supreme Judicial Court in 1974, and the purpose of the board is to return money or reimburse money to clients whose lawyers have stolen their funds.
And how did this board come about?
The court wanted to, in recognition of the serious misconduct, that is when a lawyer steals a client's money, they wanted to develop a remedy for this problem. And this is the remedy that they developed. And the legal profession is the only profession that has such a remedy, and we're very proud of that.
In a large respect, it is lawyers trying to make sure that we take care of clients who have had their money stolen by other lawyers. So it is like lawyers cleaning up their own mess. And that is, in large part, why the Supreme Judicial Court started the Client Security Board.
It's a very important service. Is Massachusetts the only state that provides this service?
Every state has a board, and the Canadian provinces do it as well. I would say Massachusetts has the best fund.
It certainly does.
Absolutely.
For a couple of reasons. One is that there is no statute of limitations. That means a client can file a claim with the board when they make the discovery of the misconduct of their lawyer. Every other fund does have a statute of limitations. Sometimes it's a year, usually between 1 and 3 years. But we don't have that in Massachusetts. And the other reason why I think the Massachusetts fund is the best is because there is no cap on the size of the award. Unlike every other jurisdiction, Massachusetts does not have a cap.
So, for instance, that means if your lawyer steals $1 million from you in another jurisdiction, you may be only able to recover $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever the cap is in that jurisdiction. In Massachusetts, if your lawyer steals $1 million from you, you get reimbursed $1 million if your claim is allowed.
Very interesting.
And we're very proud of the Supreme Judicial Court making that a criterion. That is 100% reimbursement of the loss.
And in fact, the Massachusetts Client Security Board is the only client security board in North America that has neither a cap nor a statute of limitations. And that's a source of pride both for Karen and I and also for the Supreme Judicial Court as well.
Right. Right.
And who does your fund serve?
We serve clients of lawyers who are admitted to practice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it doesn't matter who you are or what happened. If your lawyer has stolen from you, you are entitled to come in and make a claim to the Client Security Board.
And so who are the people who can ask for reimbursement?
Anybody. It doesn't have to be, anybody who has had a client steal money from them can come in and make the claim. There's no criteria that you have to meet other than, unfortunately, the criteria of having money stolen from you by a lawyer.
What would be the process for someone to come before the board in terms of, do they need to hire a lawyer?
That's a very good question. They don't need to hire a lawyer. If they do, that lawyer, by court rule, is not allowed to charge a fee. And similarly, the board members also serve with no compensation for their five-year term. So clients do not need to have a lawyer. There's an application. It's available online, or it could be mailed to you. And it's a simple, fairly simple application. And we just ask for the claimant to tell the story. What happened? When did you hire your lawyer? For what purpose did you hire the lawyer? How much money did you give the lawyer? Or how much money did the lawyer acquire for you, if it's a personal injury settlement? And then we ask for documentation of the attorney-client relationship, say, for example, a fee agreement, and then documentation of legal invoices and payments. All these letters and other documentation will serve as a basis for the board to then, the individual board members will make up their minds about whether or not there has been a theft by a lawyer from this particular claimant.
And in fact, the process is very easy because the board provides help. So if you were to call up and say, I have a claim to make, you might get Karen, or you might get Adam Lutinsky, who is our other assistant board counsel. But they'll help you through the process. They'll help you fill out the form. They'll tell you what you need to do. It's not meant to be a process that you need to have any particular knowledge for. In fact, the point of the process is to try to make sure that the claims get submitted and get paid to the extent that they're allowed. So we try to make it very easy, and we do. In fact, it's all Karen. It's not me, we try to make it as easy as possible to submit a claim and provide as much help. We're there to help the claim, not fight against the claim.
Exactly.
And in your perspective, what are the areas that are most vulnerable to this abuses or theft?
That's a very good question. I would say the area is trust in estates, and that the reason is that that's where a lawyer can have access to usually a great deal of money. Mm-hmm. Often in an estate, there's real property, maybe even two houses. So the proceeds of the sale of a piece of real property goes into the estate. And you can easily have a $1 million estate, and the lawyer can, if he so chooses, can dishonestly take a great deal of money from an estate or a trust.
Another common area actually is where a lawyer takes a retainer or a fee for providing a service and then doesn't do any work. Mm-hmm. And we treat that as a theft because the lawyer took the money and didn't provide the service. The board does not hear fee disputes. So if the client says the lawyer didn't provide the right services, or the lawyer's services were too high, or mm-hmm. it's an issue, it's a fight about the fees, we don't hear those. But if there is a lawyer who has taken a retainer and then not done any work, that is something that we will look at, and we have quite a few of those. They tend to be smaller amounts, but it is nevertheless treated as a theft.
Right. We feel it's dishonest conduct to take the client's money and then not do anything to earn it, and not return it when the client indicates that the lawyer has done nothing for the money and asks for it back, and the lawyer fails to return the money.
This is a really important service, but where do you get the money to pay all these claims?
So the money for the Client Security Board and for all the awards that are made come out of the fees that are paid by lawyers to practice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So there are no public funds, there are no tax dollars that go into making the awards. Again, it goes to the concept of lawyers cleaning up their own messes. So the fees the lawyers pay are used to pay the awards.
So maybe this question is a little bit telling. How much is the average that you would pay annually or from your board? It's
a very good question. It's a very fair question. It's generally about $2 million a year. Some years it's closer to 3, some years it's closer to 1, but on average it's about $2 million a year. And that's, it's a great deal of money. It does represent 100% reimbursement of people's losses.
And but there must be claims that come before you, and you must have some factors to determine whether or not to award these funds that are limited.
We do. We have, they're basically that the factors are that you need to have a relationship with an attorney who's admitted to practice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The attorney needs to have been suspended or disbarred by the Supreme Judicial Court. And the lawyer also needs to have stolen money from you. It's not difficult, but, and again, if there are any questions, you can always call up the board and we'll help get through the claim and determine whether there's a claim there or not.
And what is the highest amount of award that anyone has received that you have ever awarded?
It was in 2015, it was a trust and estates case, and it was over $950,000.
But in order to receive this award, the lawyers need to be disbarred.
Correct.
And there's a certain criteria that they need to present to you. What would be the process? Like a hearing, or is there a?
So it varies from case to case. We do hold hearings, and the claimant and the lawyer are both entitled to come to the hearing and present their case. In some instances, we don't hold hearings. If for instance, if the claimant does not wants to just give us the papers, we will consider it on the papers. And then we have what we consider to be small claims. Anything under $10,000 are generally done without a hearing, and the form is much shorter. It's much simpler. But yes, I mean, if a claimant wants to appear at the meetings that we hold, we will do that, and we will listen to them and give them the opportunity to present their case.
And the hearings are relatively informal. And I explain to claimants that although they'll be in a room with 7 lawyers and 2 or 3 counsel for the board, it's still, as hearings go, it's a relatively simple process. One of the important reasons to have a hearing is for claimants to have their day sort of in court. And they want to tell the story, which is usually a very difficult and sad story. And it's something that they typically have had experienced now. Maybe the loss was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and they've been, in many cases, almost ashamed that they were duped by a lawyer, and they want to be able to tell their story. And the board is very good at not only listening, but apologizing, not just for that one client's lawyer, but for the harm that it caused, not just the monetary harm, but just the emotional wear and tear.
Traumatic. It is a traumatic event when you have somebody who you trust, because people inherently tend to trust their lawyer, and when that trust is betrayed, it is a traumatic event.
For our viewers, we are learning about the Massachusetts Client Security Board from the chairman of the board, Ethan Jeffrey, and the general counsel of the board, Karen O'Toole. How long is the process to get the award?
So it's usually a 6 to 12 month process, depending on how complex the claim is. Again, we mentioned small claims earlier. Those tend to go very quickly because the issues tend to be less complex. But frequently we will ask for claimants to submit more information once we've looked at the claim, but it's usually a 6 to 12 month process.
We do expedite claims when the claimant explains the dire circumstances that the claimant is in and his or her family. And in that case, we're able to, once we get a claim, we have to notify the lawyer. So we always have to notify the former lawyer, and that can, just a 20-day notice. So we can have a claim in within, before the board within a month or 2 months, if we have to.
And I heard there are exigent circumstances as well, so that will even make it smaller. What are these circumstances?
Well, it really varies. I mean, if the claimant needs the money for whatever reason, if it's for medical expenses, if it's for housing expenses, if there is a real need for the funds, we will expedite the claim, because the point here is to try to help the claimant as much as possible.
And sometimes the claimant needs the money to pay another lawyer because they're in the middle of a legal issue. It could be a divorce. It could be, a child custody issue. It could be, a lot of different types of legal issues. And they often will explain to us candidly that they don't have the money to pay another lawyer, and they have to get their legal issue resolved. So that's another example.
Would people need to protect themselves, or what would be your advice for how best clients or people in general can protect themselves?
Well, let me first say that it is a very, very, very small percentage, less than 1% of the lawyers in Massachusetts who betray the trust of a client and steal money. That said, a lot of it comes down to common sense. If you think there's something wrong about what your lawyer is telling you, you shouldn't hesitate to ask questions. If you can ask questions of a friend, you can even go talk to another attorney if you want. It really comes down to your own sense of, is this right or is this wrong? And quite a bit of it revolves around, obviously, legal bills and things like that. And, if the attorney is not billing you, you should. That's an indication that there may be something going wrong. But it really is a common sense type of thing.
And if the client thinks something's wrong, the client shouldn't be afraid to explore that a little bit further. And they can certainly call the lawyer. And a tip that something might be amiss is if the lawyer doesn't return the call, doesn't return any voicemails or emails or anything like that, because lawyers are supposed to communicate with the clients, and most lawyers are, very trustworthy and very caring, and they do communicate with their clients as they should.
This information is invaluable, and how can we get it out there in the community? What is a phone number that people can call?
Sure.
Or is a website that anyone can look at?
The phone number for the Client Security Board is 617-728-8758. And there is a website. I would just Google the Client Security Board. It's a lot easier than trying to remember the address. And the website will have the information that you need to file a claim and some answers to common questions. As Ethan said, they should just feel free, any claimant. Sometimes it's a relative of a claimant, often an adult child, and the adult doesn't want to kind of really face the situation. They've been avoiding it. So often an adult child or even a neighbor will call and say, this is the situation. Do you think there may be an issue here? And then we can talk about it and take it from there.
And following up on that, oftentimes that same person will go to the hearing with the claimant. If for no other reason than for moral support. We frequently have a claimant along with 2 or 3 other, family members or friends who come to help out, just to support the claimant.
Before caring, supportive people such as yourselves representing the board, this is my favorite question. But what would be a memorable or striking situation that was before you that you would like to talk about?
So for me, it was we had a claim that was made by a young woman who was in a car accident and was unfortunately paralyzed in the car accident when she was young, a young girl, and she was in a wheelchair, and her lawyer stole the trust fund that had been put aside for her from the recovery from the car accident. But she came in, she was getting her degree in accounting, was it?
I believe it was, yes.
She was a very vibrant young woman and very impressive, notwithstanding what had happened to her, not only with the car accident, but also having been betrayed by her lawyer. And we were able to provide 100% recovery for her, to put her trust fund back in place, and that one sticks out to me.
Well, we still have some few more minutes to talk about all this. So, what is from each of you? What do you most enjoy about your service for the Client Security Board?
It sounds sort of simple, but after you work with the claimant, it can be for 6, 8, 9 months. We've subpoenaed bank records in court, and we've acquired court records, and they attend the hearing, and then I call them and I indicate that the board has made an award. They are so happy, and they say exactly what the Supreme Judicial Court hopes that they're going to say. They say, "You have restored, the board has restored my faith in the legal profession." It happens over and over again. So that's the best part.
And for me, it is just being able to, again, clean up, clean up a mess that's been made by a dishonest lawyer, to make sure that the legal profession, is taking care of its own problems. And, as a lawyer, you don't often get to hand out money in this fashion.
Right.
And granted, it would be better if this didn't happen, but it is going to happen, and being able to fix that is something that's very very rewarding.
And we are running out of time now. Last thoughts or takeaways from your service, from the board?
I just want to thank you very much for having us. We refer to the board sometimes as the best kept secret of the legal profession, and being here, I think, is a big step toward making it not a secret anymore.
Yeah, we are trying to get the word out as much as possible, so that there is no, hopefully, any client anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, or who has been represented by an attorney from Massachusetts, who doesn't have the knowledge that the Client Security Board is there to take care of this problem. That's the goal.
Yes.
Attorney Karen O'Toole and Attorney Ethan Jeffrey, thank you so much, and thank you kindly for your time, for your work voluntarily, and all the work you put in this very important effort and objective. For our viewers, this very important segment can be viewed at www.discoveringthelaw.com. Thank you for your attention. My name is Lucy Rivera, and we hope you have learned something about our legal profession and how the Client Security Board restores the faith in people in our legal field. Thank you for watching.